not only get us going, but if you could help with the attendees that are coming in. I'm going to guess that some people are running late, especially for the Phoenix group. We Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We had a late event in Phoenix last night. It was the 10th annual Women in Global Leadership. And a couple things I think are worth mentioning about that go to the heart of Global Chamber. I started the meeting by talking about League of Extraordinaries. And I started that way because everybody that's part of Global Chamber is extraordinary because they're doing global business, and global business is not easy. Business is tough. If you have a nail salon and you're attracting people in the neighborhood, even that's tough. But what we're talking about with global business is not just across cities, but across states and provinces and borders and cultures. And I started by the thought that the US has 14 different cultures. And I'm from New York, and I think I can pick out 14 cultures just around New York, in Connecticut and the different parts of upstate New York and New Jersey. Just those three states, there's at least 14 different cultures that I've been able to identify. So I think that whole 14 across the US is at least instructional for foreign companies coming into the US to say, you know what? There's a lot of factors to success. Certainly, one of them is understanding on the cultural side what's happening. I lived in Japan for 5 years, and when I first went to northern Japan, Akita Prefecture, Akita Prefecture in particular, it was Japanese I'd never heard before. It's like this is Japanese. It's like a whole different language, and certainly different culture. Being part of it being the rural culture. So these are factors that make it challenging to do global business, and that's why we started League of Extraordinaries. Joe Bockersteady was in the audience last night, and he had, through his company, basically redesigned and restructured Sirius Radio in New York City from Phoenix. And he was frustrated that the market in Phoenix didn't appreciate his company. It's like they didn't want to pay money, they didn't understand, what they did. And here's Sirius Radio in New York paid big bucks to be able to use the services. So I think that's a common feeling among all of us that are international. When we connect with people who understand international business, understand what we're doing, it feels good because it's a validation that what we're doing is, it's raising the bar, and it's not just success with business, but it's changing the world in a positive way. So keep up the good work. Be global and unstoppable, and recognize that the global tribe appreciates what you're doing. And one of the cool things about that is that when we appreciate what you're doing, we can make good introductions because we can understand who can benefit, and being connected to people who can benefit, we can make those introductions. The second piece that we started with last night, and then we'll get into our program here today, is that yes, global folks doing global business are extraordinary. The second aspect of that, and I hadn't really kind of thought of it until last night, was I've always thought of the world as an amazing place and open to all sorts of ideas and different cultures. But another way of looking at it is it's also kind of closed and closed-minded in some cultures. And since I'm a German Polish American, I guess I should only stick to those and speak to those. Although, I spent so much time in Japan and Korea that, one of my frustrations about both of those cultures in particular are how slow they are to allow women to be in the business side of things. That it's changing a lot now, but 20 years ago it was just so not that way. And just even now, and I'll speak about the US, it frustrates me so much that we don't just accept people for what they bring to the table, that we allow their skin color and religion and where they're from and who they love and what their gender is to get in the way of just accepting what they can bring. And so I do believe that one of the things that Global Chamber brings is the realization that that's one of our key values, and that in addition to doing business and to being successful, that we can have, for instance, women be successful, and then people see that and say, oh, okay, women can be successful. Or as I did with an extended conversation with one of our team members about an LGBTQ conversation that we had that was as normal, just here's an opportunity, and having someone present a business opportunity and have someone even on our team be somewhat offended by that in a more traditional way was maybe not shocking, but disappointing. And so we had to talk through it, and we talked through it, and we parted uh, the conversation as friends and did our virtual hugs. And he's still part of Global Chamber, and I love him, and I think he loves me, and that's great. And hopefully we make progress step by step. I know when we put our new back end of our Global Chamber system last year, it's based on HubSpot. I remember the first couple meetings we had with it. It was like, this is so complicated. I'm never going to figure this thing out. But now it's second nature. It's very easy. And a month plus ago, we all at Global Chamber installed Claude, so the team version of Claude, and it's been amazing. I love it. But in the last month, they've tried to teach me how to make introductions through Claude. Right now, we can do introductions of members to members and members to anyone through our system, and I love it. It's so easy and it's so fantastic, and I love making connections that for people to do business. And now Claude with our Globy can do it on its own. Yeah, so all we need to tell it is to do it, and it it finds connections. We sort through it. We ask Globy to make the connections, and Globy follows up and rates the connections, and then uses that information to make better connections. So as you know, AI is changing so fast, and maybe that's my contribution for today is these three elements. One is let's keep being extraordinary. League of Extraordinaries is a twice a month event that we do second Tuesdays and final Fridays to recognize and to create business development for our members. That we can be successful with international business no matter where we live, no matter what location. Building trust is a key aspect of that. Yes, if you live in a community and you have coffee with someone and 5 times and go to dinner with them and know their family, those are all normal ways of building trust with people. But when you're doing global business, you're not always have the capability to do that with everyone. So how do we balance the virtual with the in-person and develop trust in other ways? And that's a key aspect of how we structure a global business, with the recognition that, again, it doesn't matter your gender and all these other factors. You bring what you bring to the table. And so let's continue to bring that value forward. And then in terms of uh, our conversation today, let's talk about what's happening in the world, what the opportunities are. And AI is driving almost everything that we're doing, including the Claude example that I gave in terms of facilitating what we're doing as an organization. And the market opportunities are being driven. AI and the need for data is driving the need for semiconductors. And so October 19th is our next semiconductor summit. We have a whole group built around it. We have the sixth annual semiconductor summit coming up. The amount of foreign direct investment is phenomenal. The amount of foreign direct investment that TSMC had announced and is implementing in Phoenix is the largest in U.S. history, and they just announced another 100 million. And it's not just TSMC, there's an entire supply chain of companies coming in behind it that's already happening. So the amount of foreign direct investment is almost inconceivable in terms of what's happening just in that. And then the need for data centers and what's happening with data centers, not only on the ground, but some of the technologies to be able to put data centers on the ocean and in space. So we had a global chamber conversation about that 2 weeks ago from Paul Charles. The post is up on our blog. Check it out. Paul is an extraordinary leader who understands AI. He talked about data centers. He also is a 30 plus time visitor to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in January, where we will be back. Global Chamber will be back, and will this year be back to mainly focused in on Korean companies, but more holistically. If you've ever been to CES, it's a phenomenal global experience. It's almost an inconceivably large, hard to fathom, particularly the first time you go, of how big it is, how many companies are doing internationally are doing business and that are all there together, whether it's at the Venetian, the two stories there, and the convention centers and the other locations. It's amazing. So if you have been or haven't been to Consumer Electronics Show, come this year, and we'll be able to host a great event. But driving AI all the way back from the data needs down to back data centers and semiconductors, all the way back to critical minerals, which is a driving force for, like, how are we going to get those? How are we going to maintain those? China has a lock on most or many of those, and the U.S. has plans to have those, but a lot of that is happening 3, 5, or more years from now. And so how that all happens strategically, the geopolitics involved with it, all being driven by the need for data and the AI side of things, is a phenomenal happening. So that's a little bit of introduction from me. I'd like to, if you don't mind, there's several of you here that I'd like to get to, and now turn the floor over to you. And if you don't mind going first, I mentioned Maria. I'd like to go second. David Harlow is here. I'd love for you to talk about free trade zones and trade and things that are going on. But last night I was with Eduardo Gonzalez and at the Global Chamber Phoenix Women in Global Leadership, the 10th annual one. And Eduardo, as part of my prep for that, actually, I don't know how I was reading about this, but the amount of foreign direct investment in Mexico is at a record high. And so I think I knew that already, but then when I started looking at the data, it was really quite phenomenal. And for some reason, I haven't seen that much reporting on it, but when I actually started doing the research on it, I was a little bit blown away. Eduardo Gonzalez is our board chair for the Global Chamber Phoenix chapter. He also runs a company called Manufacturing 258. It's a consulting company, and 258 is a fun story. It's about the 258 obelisks on the border between Mexico and the US there's all sorts of action toward putting bigger walls between the US and Mexico. But at one point, there were 258 obelisks. And I'm having a hard time saying the word, but basically statues. Instead of a wall, it was just a marker, basically a marker, sort of like the four corners. If you're an American, maybe you know, and probably if you're not American, you may not recognize that there is one place in the United States where four states come together: New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. It's the four corners, and at that point, there's a marker. And so, similarly, there used to be these markers. They're not all there, but Eduardo's vision, as it is with Global Chamber, with technology, there's really kind of no need to have walls. We can find ways to control the right immigration. There are ways to not threaten each other across the border. There are just ways just to trade. And so his vision has always been that. He's been part of the Mexican government, and he left when Promeco disappeared through one of the previous administrations. And now he helps companies manufacture in Mexico, whether it's contracted manufacturing or manufacturing on their own or through one of the shelter companies. I think those are the three main ways. But Eduardo, would you like to comment a little bit about what you're doing and your observations about the market? And what about this FDI in Mexico? It's huge, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it's growing. I mean, it's a great opportunity for companies that are looking for manufacturing. And with this nearshoring trend that started with COVID, that actually put Mexico back on the map. Uh, there's a few factors that go into that. Of course, geographic location. I mean, you can cut your lead time by 30 to 40 days from manufacturing in China. You can save between 50 to 80% manufacturing cost if you're doing it in the US. Engineering is a big savings, and also the talent pool is pretty good. The cost for engineering service also probably can be cut in half to 50%. And we have the USMCA, which still is going to be renegotiated every year, or who knows what's going to happen, but it's still in place. So tariffs is also a good option to have compared to China. Some people are paying, I don't know, 43% tariffs, and Mexico is 0% tariff. Of course, the situation with supply chains is not as easy as it sounds. There's also a lot of product that needs to come from abroad. Some of those products still need to come from China. And that's what the discussion is right now with the rules of origin. But investment wise, yeah, I mean, companies are doubling. Companies already in Mexico are doubling down. They're investing heavily, growing their operations. The U.S. is still the main investor, followed by Spain, Canada, and the Netherlands. And the growth of investment last year, I think it was 23 billion, and is going on strong. Um, Most of it is, I will guess, 50% is being driven by expansions of companies already there, and new investment is the other part. Of course, companies are slow to make decisions because without a clear map of what is going to happen with the USMCA, that is being holding on decisions of moving manufacturing. But if geopolitics still it's a risk for companies. Mexico offers that safe harbor for their protection for their IP to continue the manufacturing, especially if they're selling to the U.S. market. Um, yeah, thank you, Doug. And yeah, about my company is called 258 Consulting. Doug mentioned about the 258 border monuments that were in place between Mexico and the U.S. Some of them are still in place. They cover from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And what we do is we help companies find contract manufacturing solutions in Mexico, and we also help them with the site selection. And since we do have a lot of connections, we also help them on the business development part. Companies in the US who want to tap into the supply chain in Mexico, we can help them. And of course, Mexican companies that want to export or explore the US market, we also help them with that. I'm based out of Phoenix. And yes, my background is about 24 years of working for the Mexican government, basically for the Mexico Development Bank and then for ProMexico. Thank you, Doug, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. My contact information is in the chat, so love to connect with anyone. Thank you, Doug.
What did you think of the event last night?
I think the event was great. We had a lot of people, a little bit intimidating with so many women around, but I think it was great. Great experiences, great conversations. It resonates a lot what they were saying, their struggles and how they're managing a man's world. Caroline Hunter was a great speaker yesterday. She is the CEO of St. Clair, and they're a Canadian company with operations in the US and in Mexico. And she talked a little bit about her issues in manufacturing, but also her professional career struggling with the men's world. And yeah, it was a great event. I think it's a great annual event that Doug started. How many years now, Doug? It's been a few, but I think it's one of the best events that you do. Yeah.
The 10th annual, yeah. So we're 11
Yeah.
years old, and that we
Yeah.
started that the first year. And there is a birthday cake. If you go on LinkedIn, they actually put together a 10-year anniversary cake. So
I saw that.
that was kind of cool. The theme that Carolyn talked about was that she felt, especially in the beginning, she started in compliance and logistics. So that's how she started in 2002 with St. Clair. They make wire harnesses. And so 2002, so what's that, 24 years. She said so many times she'd be like she'd be in rooms where it'd be like 25 men and two women. And she felt like the men always felt like the women would just disappear because, you've got children. So of course, you're not going to stick around. And so the kind of that old mentality. And so she overcame that and pushed all the way through. And now she's the CEO of this, I think it's $100 million company. It's and she's amazing. And it's Vanessa too. Her story about she does executive recruiting, and she was up against all of her until recently. All of her recruiters were women, and she was up against in the ag sector a company that did executive search for the farming industry, and the guy who was the head of the executive search firm at the other one was a farmer or came from farming. So here she is, not a farmer and a woman, and mostly a women's, and she's competing for a key role, a CEO role with agricultural farming company, big one, and it's like I don't how am I going to do this? But I know I can do it. I know I can do it. So she did win that one, and she walked through how, she worked through that. So it doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean that things may be stacked against you, but you can still get through. And so both of those ladies were extraordinary, along with the other two speakers, including Don Guerra. We always put a man on the panel, and I did walk away, Eduardo, with a loaf of bread. So maybe by the time we finish up this session, I'll go get the loaf out of the car and show everybody a good Arizona #1 bakery in Arizona. Anybody have any questions or anything to add about Mexico, or any questions for Eduardo? So thank you very much. Let's continue to go around the room. So Maria is based in St. Louis. We're are getting her more involved with Global Chamber in a key role, and we'll be able to announce that soon. And so she has a lot of Brazil experience, but she just got a lot of global experience, and she's very familiar with what's going on in the Midwest. So, Maria, thank you for joining today. Anything that you would like to share? Any observations about
Yeah,
global trade, opportunities, challenges?
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for inviting me today. Nice to meet you. I'm originally from Argentina, but I'm living in St. Louis, Missouri now. And as a matter of fact, St. Louis, Missouri is a sister city to Rosario, where I was born in Argentina. So I'm the director of that committee. And something interesting to share is now we are hosting a delegation from Rosario. They are graduates of an MBA program in agribusiness. They are coming, it's 30 people to St. Louis. And the idea is to work on collaborative efforts to learn more about the agtech ecosystem here in St. Louis. So I have been doing those relationships, building those relationships for a couple of years now. And what is interesting is definitely startups and middle-sized companies from Argentina and Rosario area that are agtech related are really interested in coming to United States, but specifically to St. Louis area, not only because of the synergies they can create, but also if they start a business here or a subsidiary here, they can get the resources that the federal government provide to US-based companies. So sometimes I also teach Latin American business at St. Louis University, which I will be contacting you, Eduardo. Maybe you can be a guest speaker. I really like your background. I think it will bring a lot to my students. And so some of the companies in Argentina sometimes because the federal government doesn't have that many resources, or maybe the regulations are not really incentivized companies to export. A couple of them they did strategically. They open up businesses in, for example, in Chile, where the foreign policy is more open to exporters, and they started exporting through Chile. So some of these companies coming now to St. Louis, maybe I think in the same way. Okay, well, maybe we know how policies is being around exporting here in the U.S., but I think it's great to like to have that strategy as well. If your own country doesn't have the feasibilities for you to export, but you're really into the exporting, maybe open up a subsidiary in other countries who are more intentionally helping companies to export, maybe an option. So this is something that I saw with some companies from Argentina and this group coming in. Maybe those are also ideas that they may have. Um, and unfortunately, I need to run because I have another meeting. But I really appreciate you being here, and also some of your thoughts that you brought out earlier, Doug, about being more inclusive, about the use of AI. I think those are conversations that definitely need to happen today. But I'm very hopeful that in the near future we won't have those conversations because newer generations are embracing those inclusivity traits and also the use of AI so naturally, and we will be doing that naturally. So hopefully those conversations are going to be over because we adopted things and we don't we don't need to bring that up. The women, being a woman, I know that has been for ages, that conversation. I'm very hopeful that it will definitely change in the short term because of these new generations bringing up the inclusivity more naturally. So hopefully we won't have those discussions, which are worth having, but hopefully we won't have it because it will be already done.
I love that. That's spectacular. Great vision of that. And sorry that I messed up Brazil, Argentina. And in fact, the Rosario visit, when is that coming up? Is that next week?
They are coming the 24th and 25th of August. They're going to stay here for 2 days in St. Louis, and then they're going to Illinois.
So I'd like to circle back with you because we also have a group from Rosario coming to Arizona, September 28th through
Oh,
October.
okay. No, I know
So,
everybody in Rosario.
so
So, no,
that's amazing.
definitely. Let's
So,
connect. No, absolutely.
So Sergio Aladio is the key person for us that's coming, head of the trucking union. And as you know, Rosario, the port of is the largest grain
Yeah,
exporting port in
yeah,
the world. It's
correct.
an
Yes, yes, yes,
amazing
yes,
location. So
yes.
so thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
for
you. Thank you.
speaking.
Sorry, I need to go. See
No
you.
worries. Thank you. There's another person here that's very connected to a port, and that's David Harlow. His office is fairly close to not fairly close, it's quite close to the port of Los Angeles and the port of Long Beach. He runs a foreign trade zone. He's also a logistics expert. He's part of the Global Chamber Los Angeles Advisory Board. David, you've got all sorts of things going on. What are some of the things that you're seeing right now in the world?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Doug. I really appreciate being on and being able to talk. Definitely a lot going on. A quick intro about myself. We're licensed customs brokers and international trade consultants, but we specialize in foreign trade zones. And foreign trade zones really tie in well when it comes to mitigating tariffs and duty implications, but it also ties in really well for FDI. It's a great way to incorporate foreign direct investment and final stage manufacturing in the United States. That obviously has a job creation and an economic development benefit. And so being able to import raw materials and components and do final stage manufacturing creates a great environment for companies that are looking to incorporate the two. It also is a huge mitigation factor for tariffs, especially when companies are looking to compete globally. One of the difficulties companies see today is I want to manufacture in the US, I want to use foreign inputs, which makes a lot of sense and is extremely cost effective. But I'm being hit with these tariffs. And if I'm delivering and my customer base is in the US, that's just part of the cost of doing business in today's environment. But when I'm trying to compete globally with other manufacturers and other suppliers around the world, it makes it almost impossible to be able to compete. Foreign trade zones solve that problem by allowing companies to manufacture, do final stage manufacturing and distribution to compete globally without having to pay duties or tariffs. So it definitely eliminates that piece of it. And so that's part of what we do and what we bring to the table, as well as just other compliance matters, looking at other ways to mitigate tariff impacts, whether it's, redistribution of your supply chain, classification engineering, as long as it's still in compliance. So we do a lot of those kinds of things. But to kind of talk about the global impact, what we're seeing is definitely a lot of shifting of company supply chains. You brought up a really good point, Doug, in Mexico. Latin America has seen huge impacts in a positive way that's brought more manufacturing and more investment into Mexico and other Latin American countries here in the last couple of years, which has been amazing. And it doesn't get talked about enough. So I completely agree on that front. So again, just looking at different things to for companies to help manage their supply chains is important right now. One of the interesting things that we've seen is we've seen a lot of companies, as everyone can probably attest to, shifting away from China. But we're starting to see this year companies shifting, or at least partially shifting back into China. I think what they're seeing is while moving out of China alleviates some tariffs, but there's more tariffs being applied in other countries that may not be as impactful as in China, but you lose a lot in that expertise and the access to that quality work that has been invested so heavily in China. And I don't think that is across all commodities or all industries, but we're starting to see more and more of that, where companies are finding other ways to mitigate those tariffs, and going back to China, or at least retaining a lot of the quality that they've experienced over the last 20, 30 years in China. And so I thought that was really interesting, because that's definitely not the narrative we're hearing politically, but it's something companies are shifting back and forth, looking for that right fit for them to be successful in their supply chain. And it makes it, enormously difficult when the goalposts keep changing from week to week or month to month with the tariff impacts that's affecting everyone globally, whether it's tariff obstacles or non-tariff obstacles or geopolitical issues such as the Iran war, the Ukraine war, the Israel situation. This makes it enormously difficult to plan your supply chain, and then you throw tariffs on top of that, those transportation disruptions that we're seeing with the Strait of Hormuz and so on. Just it's constant change, it's constant obstacles we're having to manage. But anyways, so that's me drawn out a little bit there. But foreign trade zones is our thing. It's what we think is in high demand and is a great solution for companies to consider when they're importing goods into the U.S. and then looking to compete globally as well. Thanks a lot, Doug.
Are there particular countries that are taking advantage of that more than others?
As far as using foreign trade zones, or
Yes.
I think it's less about the country and it's more about the commodity and the
Okay.
tariff implication. So
Got it.
seeing things like product coming out of China is definitely hitting higher tariff rates, right? We just recently saw the new tariff rate of 10 to 12% over 60 countries. We're seeing a 50% tariff for goods coming out of Brazil now. But probably for me, the biggest impact has been the Section 232 tariffs, which is a 50 to 100% tariff on steel, aluminum, copper products. This is really affects so many companies across the board that a lot of us don't think there's metal product in some of the things that we use. And so it's definitely having an impact. And I think there's still more to come with this administration, and there's still more obstacles for us to manage. So foreign trade zones becomes a great way to mitigate that a little bit, or at least give you a better runway on how to adjust your supply chain.
Got it. Sounds good. Any questions for David?
I'll go ahead and put my contact information in the chat as well, you guys. It was a pleasure, and anytime anyone has any questions or wants to talk trade, I'm right here with Doug. Love to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. Izzy Heiken needed to leave. He's the founder and CEO of ISPAL Joe, which is 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 Israel, PAL is Palestine, and JO is Jordan. Middle East trading company with offices in Israel, Jordan, Portugal, and Uganda, specializing in tailored solutions for supply chain across the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. And I flag him because he's a longtime member. He used to, with his wife May, be located in Scottsdale, where we founded Global Chamber at the SkySong facility. And so I still remember the days when they were there and his love of Arizona and the desert, which is not for everybody, but they sure love it. And subsequently, through COVID, they've ended up in Portugal, and they reminisce a bit about Scottsdale. However, they're doing some great work. And so he's someone should be on your radar screen. Jackie Bochor is also someone who should be on your radar screen in Bucharest, Romania, with Emerging Europe. She's not only knowledgeable and deeply knowledgeable about the business there, but are in that region. And we talk about Emerging Europe. Why not? Look at the opportunities. And if you follow her on LinkedIn, you'll see she's got her fingers in a lot of different areas, a lot of different market segments. Jackie, thank you for joining us today. Anything you'd like to share? Any observations?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Lovely to see you. Lovely to meet all of you. Yeah, well, actually, in our area, currently we are encountering some issues related to prolonged drought. We have been practically left without any rivers in this area of the world, and this is causing a lot of trouble in the energy sector. Unfortunately, some of our main tributaries to the Danube are practically dry, and the energy sector is now relying a lot on the photovoltaic part, the wind. We had to capacitate more solar panels in order to face these issues related to hydro and nuclear energy. So practically this is the news of the day, unfortunately. But this generates opportunities for battery and energy storage solutions, which are now becoming critical for the region. And we have recently looked into this sector. There is a lot of funding going into building such capacities in Romania and the other countries in the region. So as you can see, Romania is also a Black Sea member state, NATO and European Union states. So it provides opportunities for companies looking to enter Europe via less costly markets. So in this regard, we have been assisting foreign players looking to enter Europe, mainly through acquisition of local players in Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland. Usually these are multi-country projects. So in case you are looking to develop in this area, or you have clients looking to expand to this area, we are very happy to assist you.
Thank you, Jackie. Does anybody have any questions for Jackie or any of the speakers that we've had so far? We have about 8 or 9 minutes left. We try to finish up at 55 so that we can wrap up and give you a little bit of break between now and your next meeting. Chris Scalisi has joined. He's the executive director for Global Chamber in upstate New York and based in Buffalo and for the chapter there. Chris has a long history of exporting and importing activities, including being an expert on compliance. He's also a passionate believer in trade and supporter of trade. So we really love working with you, Chris, and look forward to helping and supporting the ramping up of the chapters there. Do you have anything you'd like to share? Any observations about opportunities or challenges?
Just 2 or 3 minutes, Doug, and I apologize for being late to the meeting. I had a previous meeting that ran over, which is very exciting, which I'll share down the road. But Dave, I know David, and he has a phenomenal company of what they do and helping companies, and see some other familiar faces as well. And Doug, I got to tell you, I am so excited to be back with the Global Chamber because everybody on this call is probably going to be more important than ever as things are changing, not only because of the day-to-day changes with tariffs, the geopolitical situations. As we saw on Monday, the propping up of the U.S. dollar buying yen. The world is now becoming called trade diversification, and now countries, both domestic and abroad, are saying it's not about the United States. We are citizens of the world. The world is our market basket, and we need to take advantage of who we can work with in selling products, buying the best products from the world, and also selling and being competitive. And, I always love the Global Chamber because there are great resources from all around the world that companies can now go to and meet these experts to say, if you're interested in doing business in Romania, or if you're looking for an FTZ for cost savings, the expertise and knowledge is just incredible. And that's why I love, like I said, I love coming to these meetings. I learn something new every day. But I just wanted to conclude to say there's a lot of excitement going on with trade. There's a lot of uncertainty going on with trade. That's nothing new. You guys are probably aware of. But having that network that's out there is more the critical than ever, and learning about more about everybody's expertise and knowledge and what they bring to the table is just going to make not only just the global chamber stronger, but bring us all together as one global community. Thanks, Judd.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a couple other members. Demetrius Evans, are you available to say hi and give us an update on anything going on in Chicago? Hey, you're unmuted.
Hey,
How are you?
hi. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Great to hear from you. What's
I
going
just
on
got
in international trade in the Midwest?
I just got out of court, so I got to tell you from the legal point of view, my it's not whether or not you can trade and invest in, foreign investment. It's is it going to be promising? And if it's not, does your contract clearly say what we're going to do about it, and have you already followed up with judicially what happens if there is a problem in that jurisdiction that you're in. I think one of the things, if I can just say something that I'm seeing that's concerning me, is evaluating partners and supply chains based on AI. And I think that it's going to take a little more due diligence. I love what Chris just said about, this is pushing us really to be global and unstoppable and not just rely on what we've been doing before. Especially, if the reliance has been on the US, I think we're trading with each other, but that does take a little bit more due diligence for us to figure out in these jurisdictions what are the courts. Like, I've run into some courts where there's just a commercial court, right? And that's fantastic. That's exactly where you want to be. They've thought about these issues, but sometimes there's not. They haven't thought about it as much, and in the end, if there's a problem, it's just going to be that more difficult. So hate to be, I don't want to be gloom and doom. I feel like legal is always like, do this, make sure you're doing this. But I will say, bring counsel in early. Let counsel, look at all of the avenues before you really get involved, even if it's a huge deal and looks great from the beginning. So, when I woke up, I got all these congratulations for 6 years at the Global Commerce, and I was like, wait a minute, is that right? I was like, is AI getting that? So I got to go back and check. But it's been fun to see all of the notices. So happy Friday! Have a great weekend, everybody.
Wow, I hadn't seen that yet, so that's amazing. Congratulations. That's great. So we just have a couple minutes left. Anybody else left on the call that has anything to share? I know, Gustavo, you're connected to some Global Chamber members in Brazil, so congratulations on that. It looks like you're doing international business. Anything you'd like to share? Only have a couple minutes, though.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. I know there are a lot of opportunities that are not being taken. It's not because of bad products or bad services. It's mainly because of lack of knowledge. So we are trying to help small and micro entrepreneurs going abroad. I have a company also in Estonia, and I try to connect Brazil and Estonia. So we are always open for new partners, new opportunities. And if you need something from South Brazil, we are closer to Argentina and Uruguay here in my city than to São Paulo. But if you need something from Brazil, feel free to reach me out here.
Very, very good. And who is the member of Global Chamber? Who's the person or the company?
It's Arturo Mutoni. Arturo Mutoni is from.
Oh, yeah, sure. Got it.
And
That's
we
it.
had some projects together.
Maybe in
Capacity.
Santa Catarina, somewhere in.
Rio Grande do Sul. It's the last state in the south part of Brazil.
Yeah.
And we capacitated some entrepreneurs for exporting. So we had a program from 2021 to 2024. We capacitated 157 companies, and 33 of them are already exporting. So there are a lot of opportunities here in Brazil and also in Argentina. I was talking to some companies yesterday. They are trying to bring their products and services to Brazil. So I'm helping companies from other countries to come to Brazil, companies to go to Europe, and a lot of other partners also. So if you need something from South of Brazil, I'm here.
Fantastic. We have a new partner starting in Brazil, and we're already very strong in Argentina. So let's connect. Jerome Miller also has some extraordinary global work that he's doing. Not, I don't think yet a member, but Jerome, is anything that you'd like to share? We only have about a minute left. Are you available?
Yes, I am. So, hello everyone. My name is Jerome Miller. I'm based in New York City. I'm the co-founder of Globally Connected Group. It's a global growth company, and we provide advisory and consultancy services to companies seeking to expand globally or just scale their business operations in general. Gustavo definitely would like to connect, but as far as what I'm seeing currently in the global space, there's a lot of opportunities in the payments industry. My co-founder and I, we actually have a partnership with Seamless Middle East and South Africa, and they basically come together yearly and they host conferences. So a lot of companies, we've had conversations with those who are looking to learn more about the payments industry and just continuing to elevate the company as the payments industry is changing nowadays. So that's one. And then also AI, as everyone mentioned. We just recently got a new partnership with an international software development company, Indepal, that's in AI. So those are just what I'm seeing within the last 2 to 3 months, AI and payments industry. Those are opportunities to look into.
Okay, thank you very much. I now hear the New York in your accent, and I think you're gonna you're gonna meet Susan Asadi of Global Chamber New York soon, right? Coffee next week?
Yes, in 2 weeks we are meeting.
2 weeks. Got it. Thank you. That concludes, unless anybody has anything in final conclusion, we'll wrap up here on a First Friday conversation. Every month on First Friday, we have this conversation of just observing what's going on in the world and ideally giving us some additional information to be more successful in the coming weeks, months, and years. Thanks, everybody. Most of you being Global Chamber members, love you. Thank you for your support and collaboration. If there's anything you need, fill in the Globi form or just reach out to us directly. We're happy to help. The number of introductions we're doing on a weekly basis has been ramping up dramatically over the last 4 to 5 weeks because not only do we have Globi as an AI tool, but Globi's now talking to Claude. And we've figured out how all that works, and it's it's confusing for me, but it's been amazing for our team, and I'm going to figure it out at some point here, probably between now and this next month. But the rest of the team is implementing it, and it's amazing. And if you're not yet a member, definitely consider it. It's a global tribe of leaders that are doing extraordinary work around the world, as I mentioned kind of in the early part of this conversation. It's tough doing global business, but it's also can be very successful, and it takes a village. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Friday. Take care. Thanks, David. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jerome and Gustavo and Demetrius, if you're still there. Thank you.